We're back. I know I took a week off and let everyone know that that was going on, but I wanted to catch up to speed of what's going on, but also highlight what this episode is going to be about, and that is death. Death is among us. Death is always around, right? We joke around that, death and taxes, the only thing that are guaranteed in life. And it's true. So I'm going to take you down a personal journey around death for me. We're going to talk about some statistics around death, and then just kind of my opinion and observation to maybe help you if a loved one has died, or just in general death around us. So for me, I really wasn't a part of too much death growing up. I think my great grandma died when I was 7, give or take. It's a great grandmother, right? That's a little different growing up back then. And then I didn't really have any issues until high school when I was a freshman, playing varsity football. One of the players committed suicide with a shotgun. That was difficult because we were in the same position group, and he was just a really good guy. Treated me well for being the young kid on the team, and that was kind of like the first one of like, oh shit, like this is real. Went on to have a couple other suicides throughout high school. We had a family of 3, or kids of 3. Their house burnt down with them in it, and like things just started to, I guess, change around that for me. And recognizing what it is, and that it's deeper than just like someone dying. So then I go to college, and get through college. No real death around me until about 18 months after we graduated, when we had a suicide from one of our teammates who had a young son too. That was difficult. Being defense with him and everything. Then you start to ask yourself, is it CTE? Is it from all the hits we've taken? What was going on in your life? Although he seemed happy and all of that, you start reflecting on how much has to happen and go on in someone's life to choose that. But also, like, being a man and a father and going through, from a sports perspective, the highs and being with your team to not having anything, right? Not having that team that you bled and sweat with. I know I relate this sometimes back to the military, and it's true to a degree, right? Their combat's different than our combat, give or take, but the family side of it is difficult. Shortly after that, we had another teammate die of an overdose. Shortly after that, the coach that recruited me to Drake also died. And then 2 years after that, we had another coach die. So very rapidly, things were starting to partake. And now I have 2 boys, and we're trying to navigate that. And I'm still like grieving and trying to figure that out, even what grieving process looks like. And how do you teach that to kids? I don't know. Let me fast forward to 2021. My kids would be then 4 and 7, 5 and 7, depending, I guess, what time of the year it was. The part that I knew was coming was my mother. I early on realized that she was an alcoholic. I fought her on it multiple times, really throughout her life. And I always knew that was what was going to take her. It just so happened to expedite itself when basically she had just turned 50, and she passed away in 2021. And that funeral was difficult. I'm glad she chose cremation, because having a 7-year-old boy and a 5-year-old boy there, it was one of the most difficult things as a parent. The youngest, not really knowing what's going on. Sometimes he's an airhead anyway, so it doesn't matter. But he didn't know what's going on. He was young. Lincoln, our oldest, did though. He screamed and cried out loud, and it was that was difficult and painful, right? And then I had to figure out like what that means to me from losing a parent, how to parent, how to move forward, and in doing so. But also that day, my grandmother lost her youngest child on top of it, and outlived her youngest child. I don't ever want to know what that is like. I'm sure some of you have known what that's like, but I can't say that that's something that I could even fathom happening. And from that moment on, her care and her drive wasn't there anymore. And so over the course of the next 4 years, she just kind of dwindled away. Stopped eating as much, stopped moving as much, and just really couldn't get through that grieving process. And so, about a month ago, give or take, we lost my grandmother. My boys lost their great-grandmother. This is now their second funeral, before Lincoln's 11 and Croy is currently 8. So like before they're 10, 11 years old, they've lost their grandmother and now their great-grandmother. For me, this one hit harder. I don't want to say harder, it hit differently, because I lost my mother. That's one thing. I lost my grandmother, who was actually like my second mother, because my grandparents raised me a lot, because my mom was always working 12-hour shifts and my dad really wasn't around. So I lost 2 mothers, and now I have a grandfather/father who I've spent multiple years driving truck with him in the summers and everything. He's lost his wife of over 40 years. So I've lost 2 of my mothers. I have a grieving father who's aging, grandfather is aging, and I've never had that much anxiety, stress, unknown to deal with, on top of going through that, where she was an open casket with my boys and explaining and everything. The only thing that was easier is she was almost 82 years old. So like, you lived a good life and you lived through it, but to lose basically your mothers and only have one parent left. To this day, I still have days where it's like, I can feel it. So it's interesting. So I wanted to tell you that story, what's been going on. That's why I've been kind of MIA for a little bit. That's why we didn't do a video last week, but we're getting back on top of it. And it's around death. It's around death. I find it interesting how we all get through it and how many people come to the table to help you. And everyone wants to help you, but like, what is there to help when you have to grieve internally? I am lucky enough to be a business owner. I'm lucky enough to create content and stuff like this to allow me the time to grieve, and my clients recognize that as well. Because if you don't, then what happens? I don't know. Not sure. But let me hit you with some stats, if I can get them out of this fucking thing. I found these interesting, and I want to put opinion piece on these as well. But these stats are from the National Funeral Directory Association. So very interesting. Didn't even know this thing was a thing. So I talked about cremation and I talked about open casket. I prefer cremation. I know my wife does. I know my mom did it, but my grandma wanted burial. My grandfather wants cremation. Have gone through both of those. Cremation is way better. Albeit I'm gonna get a little more morbid with this. It's not as fine ashy as you think. It's more like gravel, just to let you guys know that. That was hard for me to understand. But ability to have the remains and spread them where you want and not have to go back to one cemetery or even see your loved one in that perspective, I prefer. But here's the stat. 61.9% of people prefer cremation over 33.2% to have burial as normal. By 2045, the cremation rate is expected to be 82.1%. And I think that's just going to keep going higher and higher for a few reasons. One, cost, which we'll get into here, ease of use and not having to go to one cemetery. You can make it your own experience. And 3, I think people are wanting that burden of an open casket. And I wholeheartedly agree, which is what I said earlier. Now, when we get to cost, the average cost of a burial in 2023 was $8,300, with cremation being $6,280. So right there, you can already see the cost difference. Yeah, it's $2,000, but that's just the average across the United States. I've seen it here in Iowa, $10,000 to $12,000, cremation being $8,000. In Nebraska, luckily my grandparents prepaid, so theirs was around $7,500, give or take. But now we're reaching $12,000, $14,000, and that's a burden that you put on your family that maybe you didn't think about putting on your family. That's why we have life insurance, but also that's another reason people are choosing cremation. This stat is one that is interesting, and there are going to be 2 stats I'm going to give to you right now. Non-traditional funeral locations are about 52% of the time now, which ties into this. 44.5% would prefer to have the remains scattered in a sentimental place, while 17.2% would prefer to bury or intern them at a cemetery. 10.6% would prefer to have them kept in an urn at home, and 9.65% have not been decided. So as you can see, the uptick of, hey, scatter mine in a sentimental place, which is why the increase to the non-traditional is happening. I enjoy that. I really do. Now, obviously, you have to look at local laws and all that stuff, but from someone who has gone through it, it feels better. It is more because you get to take them with you. My boys have my mother in her urn box, and they put stickers. She travels with us anytime we drive, and they put stickers at national parks and stuff that with her. And we're able to bury her where she has wanted and told us to, not just in one place, which is amazing. I really find that helps the grieving process. Whereas with my grandmother, when we go back through Omaha, we will go to her burial site, and it'll be fine. It'll have that same somewhat feel, but it'll just be different because we can't take her with us physically everywhere. And I know as humans, we have this thing of like spiritual side, but we also have this physical side. I think that physical side is important. So those are the stats. That's what's been going on. My opinions on all of it. I wanted just to have this video be more around that. And for those that do follow and watch, I know this is a little deeper and darker, but you know who I am. And that's what happens. Going forward on Let's Get Real, we will be having shorts that are more current events related, more hot topics for you. We're going to obviously have my opinion on them, but you'll see more of those in shorts. And then we'll have a summary video of really what's going on and really my opinion on that. So stay tuned for the next Let's Get Real.